What can you do if you are doing your PhD and you have a supervisor that is not supporting you, a supervisor that is maybe not offering feedback at all or not offering enough feedback and not being that hands-on as you would like or need it to be? So in this video, I want to discuss this issue because I feel that it's a very common issue of supervisor not actually supervising and helping their students. And I would say that 80% of the PhDs that I work with experience this problem, which makes me sort of experienced in telling what are some strategies that could actually work when it comes to seeking help from your unsupportive supervisor or making sure that your supervisor is offering you the feedback that you want, or tackling it on your own up to some point and then bringing that thing to the supervisor. So I feel that this is a problem, a huge problem in academia, and we can think about and talk about why does it happen, like why are supervisors not supervising. Of course, there is the human factor, but there is always also the reality of those people being extra busy with several PhD students, with several projects, side projects, and so on. So it makes sense that they cannot offer enough support for everyone. This doesn't justify them, because if you are being paid for doing a job, then you should be doing it properly, but it sort of gives us a sense of why this might be happening. Of course, this doesn't help you, because if you are not being properly supervised, it affects directly you, but it's something that sort of gives us a little bit of context in order to understand what is the reason and why does this even happen. But now I want to talk a little bit about what are the steps that you can take if you feel that you are not supervised the way you should be, if you feel that you are lacking the guidance that you should have, if you're not having your meetings with your supervisor regularly, and how you can sort of, I would say, self-coach yourself throughout the PhD journey up to some point. So what I typically do with my clients, so first of all, I have to say that the majority of my clients, the majority of the PhD students I work with have an absent supervisor up to some point. And the majority, however, isn't completely absent. Like, it's not that you never hear your supervisor. The point is that the majority of my students have this supervisors that are super busy, or maybe they are more invested in other students' projects, or maybe they are simply not that interested in that project, so they do not want to put that much energy into that, and so on. But the thing that I noticed, and this is something that I am 100% sure works, is that what I help them with is build the narrative of what your research is saying. So for example, instead of approaching your supervisor with, okay, this is a bunch of mess and I don't know what to do with it, this is very much likely not going to be accepted in a good way, because they are simply not going to put in the time and effort to really make some sense of your mess. However, if you do some pre-analysis of everything, if you build a clear story around your research, if you say, look, I'm thinking about doing this or that, what should we do? Then they are much more likely to respond and to actually tell you, look, this is the path that you should take. So I always suggest my clients to really make that structure beforehand, so that when you are actually approaching your supervisor and asking for feedback, you are already asking with something that is tangible, something that isn't a complete mess, and something that always has a certain narrative or story. And what we do, we sometimes even prepare several of those versions, and they then tell the supervisor, look, do you prefer doing this, or this? And then they can tell you. So the bottom line of this is that people, the less they have to think, the more likely they are to help you. So I always suggest doing that for my clients, and this is one of the most important strategies I use when my clients are facing supervisors that are not supportive or are not offering feedback the way they should. So if this is your case, if this is your situation, if you are stuck with your supervisor that is not supportive, that is not actually giving you the guidance and support and feedback that you need, I want to invite you to schedule a completely free intro coaching call with me. I will leave a link down below in the description, where we can talk about exactly that, like your current challenges, your current struggles with your research, how to put it together in a way that makes sense, and of course see what are the exact next steps you should take in order to make sense of all of that, in order to move a little bit closer to that finish line, to that thesis submission and defense. Of course, you can do that on your own or with my help and support. So I hope that you found this video useful, and as always, see you in the next few days with another video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.